All true believers are seeking the same thing: to live in relationship with what is deepest, with what is highest, with what is most real. Religion says, walk this path. It has carried many before you. It will carry you too. Spirituality, on the other hand, is less about prescribing a path and more about the search. It is raw, unguarded, and deeply personal. It begins not with doctrine, but with longing. It is a listening, a reaching, a searching for, and a dancing with mystery. Religion is the inherited path. It is rooted in tradition, in a fable handed down through the generations, a narrative structure defined, refined, and redefined through centuries lived in faith. It tells you how to pray, what to believe, when to kneel. It is formed over many generations by those who have walked this path before. It offers symbols, stories, rituals, and standards, a tested framework. Religion speaks not only to what one believes, but how one lives. It binds together belief in the sacred with a way of life. In fact, the very word religion comes from the Latin religere, which means to bind. One binds oneself to live in a certain way, according to certain rules. Religion is the form that the binding takes, not as a cage, but as a commitment. A life lived according to standards set by something greater than yourself. But not everyone feels called to the well-paved road. Some feel the sacred as a pull that doesn't match the categories they've inherited. This is where spirituality enters. Spirituality begins with the mystical experience. It aims at revelation, to be sure, but personal revelation in particular. It asks, what does this mean to me? What do I feel called to do? Who do I feel called to be? And how can I remain faithful to that pull, even if no one else understands it? It would be easy to frame religion as rigid and spirituality as free. But that's too simple. Religion at its best is a living tradition, capable of renewal, rich with wisdom, and animated by generations of seekers. Spirituality, left unchecked, can become unmoored, vulnerable to self-deception, prone to confusing comfort with truth. There are dangers in both. When religion becomes too fixed, it can trap the soul in forms that no longer breathe. It can demand conformity where honesty is needed. It can pressure the seeker to fit their experience into a story they did not choose. But the danger in spirituality is different. to become so individual in your seeking that you begin to worship your own image, to follow only what affirms you and never what challenges you. Still, it's worth remembering this. Every religion began as a spiritual experience. Before the scriptures and before the temples, there was silence. There was awe. Moses on the mountain, Muhammad in the cave, Jesus in the desert, the Buddha beneath the Bodhi tree. But with time, spirituality becomes structure, and structure becomes scripture, which itself becomes the system that defines the interpretation which is proper. And this can be beautiful, a way to carry the fire forward. But it can also become a template too tight for a soul still growing. There are dangers in forging your own way. You might wander in circles. You might build an altar to your own reflection. But there are dangers in tradition too. You might mistake the map for the terrain. You might force your love of God into someone else's shape. You might obey without awakening. Though often antagonistic towards one another, religion and spirituality are far from enemies. They are more like old friends, because every religion begins in the spirituality of one individual, in the lessons learned through their search, and in the wisdom they found. Though they are often spoken of as opposites, in truth, religion and spirituality are better understood as different ways of relating to one and the same thing, the sacred. Religion asks for reverence. Spirituality asks for honesty. Religion offers clarity. Spirituality demands courage. Religion is a way of life devoted to what is proper, to what is deemed sacred by the heritage of our ancestors. Spirituality is the attempt to cultivate a relationship with the whole, with being itself, without the training wheels. But in the end, both paths meet at the foot of the same mystery, the mountain of truth. Whether you kneel in a church, sit beneath the sky, chant in a language not your own, or simply close your eyes and listen, the question is the same. Are you reaching for what is real? Are you letting it reach back? Because in the end, it's not about which path you choose, but whether it brings you closer to what is holy, what is whole, and what calls you to become more than you were. In the end, the question is not, are you religious or are you spiritual, but are you awake? Are you searching? And are you willing to be changed?